All right, what if I told you there was an NBA champion that you've probably never even heard of? Seriously, a team that clawed its way to the very top, joined the league that would eventually become the NBA, and then poof, just vanished.
Yeah, my guess is you probably haven't. And there's a really good reason for that. Their story is this wild ride through the super chaotic early days of pro basketball. It's like a real historical mystery, just hiding right out in the open.
Because in the big leagues, the league that directly becomes the NBA we watch today, the Indianapolis Jets lasted for, get this, 1 season. Just one. And then they were gone. Forever. So you gotta wonder, right? How does a team hit the absolute peak and then just disappear like that?
Okay, let's get into it. To really get the Jets, you have to go back to who they were before they were the Jets. And their origin story is, well, it's pretty humble and honestly, a little confusing.
So, this is where it all begins. They were originally called the Indianapolis Kautskys. Why? Well, they were founded back in 1931 by a guy named Frank Kautsky. And he wasn't some big-shot millionaire. He was a local grocer. Come on, a basketball team started by the guy who runs the grocery store? That's the ultimate underdog story right there.
And this really shows you just how messy the world of pro basketball was back then. Look at this journey. They start out in 31 as an independent team, just playing whoever they can find. Then they jump to the NPBL, which folds. So then they bounce over to the NBC, then the NBL. It was just this constant scramble, just trying to stay afloat.
And all that league hopping led to a serious identity crisis. They weren't just the Kautskys. For a while, they were the Pure Oils, for a sponsor. Then they were just the Oilers. It's like they were trying on different costumes, just hoping one would fit. And honestly, that kind of summed up the whole sport at the time. Total chaos.
But here's the thing. Through all that craziness, they actually started to build something really special. And that brings us to their golden age. This is when the Kautskys weren't just some random team, they were honest-to-goodness champions. So check this out. The 46-47 season, that was their masterpiece. They were an absolute force, putting up 27 wins against 17 losses, and they didn't just squeak into the postseason. No way. They went all the way and won the World Professional Basketball Tournament. Think about that. For that one moment, this little team from Indianapolis was the best in the world.
And here they are, in their moment of glory. This is what a champion looked like in 1947. I love these red and white striped jerseys. They weren't just a uniform, They were a symbol. When other teams saw those stripes, they knew they were in for a fight.
Every great team needs a star, right? For them, it was Arnie risen. This guy was a beast in the paint, a scoring machine who could shut people down on defense. He was the absolute heart and soul of that championship squad. So let's be clear, this wasn't some fluke. This was a legit, elite basketball team.
And that's what makes the next part of the story just so wild. They're literally on top of the basketball world. So they do the logical thing. They make the jump to the big leagues, to the association that's about to become the NBA. And that is when everything completely falls apart.
So the league they joined was called the Basketball Association of America, the BAA. And this is the key piece of the puzzle. The BAA is the direct forerunner of the modern NBA. So this was it. This was the big time. But for the Kautskys, it turned out to be the beginning of the end.
But there was a catch, a big one. The BAA wanted to look like a major professional league, so it had this rule: no commercial sponsors in team names. Well, for a team literally named after the grocer who owned it, that rule wasn't just a problem, it was a death sentence for their entire identity.
So what happened? They were forced to change their name to something generic, the Indianapolis Jets. And you can see here, this was so much more than just a name change. The Kautskys were world champs with a real identity. The Jets, they were just a shell. They lost their connection to their founder, their community. They lost their soul. Honestly, they were probably doomed from that moment on.
And the numbers. Woof, the numbers do not lie. Just look at this record. 18 wins, 42 losses. It was a total and complete disaster. It was like the second they changed their name, they just forgot how to play basketball.
And so, this is it, the end of the road, August 3rd, 1949. On the exact same day that the BAA and NBL merged to officially form the NBA we know today, the Indianapolis Jets folded. They just ceased to exist. Can you imagine? They finally make it to the promised land only to get kicked out the very moment it's created.
What a heartbreaking way for it all to end.
But wait, you might think that's where the story ends, right? Just another forgotten team with a sad ending. But the legacy this franchise left behind, under all its different names, is actually kind of shocking.
Just look at this list of names. John Wooden. Yeah, that John Wooden, the legendary coach, played for this team. Of course, you've got Arnie Rison, their big star, Stretch Murphy, Branch McCracken. You know what they all have in common? Every single one of them is in the Basketball Hall of Fame. This forgotten team was basically a factory for legends.
Now, to be fair, Indianapolis didn't lose pro basketball completely. The city got a new team right away for the first official NBA season, called the Indianapolis Olympians. But the Jets, the direct line back to Frank Kautskys' grocery store team, they were gone, for good.
And all of this leaves us with a really interesting question, doesn't it? The story of the Jets is just this powerful reminder that the polished, perfect NBA we see today was built on some pretty chaotic, messy foundations. It really makes you wonder, how many other teams, how many other champions and Hall of Famers have stories just like this that got lost along the way?